So hi to all, my name is Zai. I've been playing Quake for over 17 years. So here we go with the mouse review. This is a Cooler Master Xornet 2, made for claw grip. It's a small mouse and it kind of reminds me of a paw. When you put it in the hand, it definitely feels like a paw. But here's a quick look at the mouse so you actually know what you're buying. Got a finger rest there, a rubber grip there, two big mouse feet, another rubber grip on this side, there is a contoured edge there, two buttons, there's a little raised ledge that prevent you from actually hitting them accidentally, although I find that actually gets in my way. I prefer just to be able to reach the buttons easily. You have some nice grooves in the buttons for comfort, two DPI buttons, and the left and right click don't go all the way down the mouse, they are segmented. Let's do a button check. Left mouse button, right mouse button, DPI buttons, mouse 4 and 5, scroll wheel, so you can probably hear that these buttons aren't the best quality. There are some rattles, but they're not too bad either, especially for the price, they're decent. But what I have found is that these buttons stick to your finger a little bit and they rattle on the way back up. I'm not sure if you can hear it on camera. It doesn't happen all the time, just not the best. I can imagine these buttons being quite good for MOBA. They are very easy to click in fact sometimes I accidentally click them in, so I don't think they take much to actually press them. There's a slight rattle when you tap it, and there's also a rattle when you lift it up, but that's most likely the mouse wheel. It's gone now that I've actually held it down. In game, the buttons seem to be very responsive. I can't notice any click delay. Texture wise, obviously you have the rubber on the sides. The rest is just a bit of a textured plastic, but the buttons are smooth plastic. In fact, they feel quite comfortable. When you're holding the mouse, it does feel good in the hand. Now this is made for claw grip, obviously, but with an 18cm hand, I actually found I could palm grip it. Just. There is some room back there, but it still feels comfortable enough. The mouse feet glide well. I didn't have any problems in game with those. And the cable doesn't seem to drag, although it's not the best quality, it is just a standard rubber. It seems a bit cheap. If you buy those cheap mice off eBay, you get the really bad versions of this sort of cable. But despite it not being completely smooth, it didn't give me any hassle. Now usually I prefer mice that have a 2:1 ratio, so length is 2 times as long as the width. This one is more of a circle. It's 7cm across at grip width, and the base is just over 9cm. I found this to be a bit of an issue. Just like on the Corsair guitar, it affects lateral stability, so I don't feel as confident or as comfortable when I'm just aiming left and right, which as you can imagine is a very important part. And you'd think if you weren't playing first person shooters that wouldn't be an issue, but it's actually an issue even in Windows, so I just don't feel as stable with these. I'm not going to say no one will be. Just personally, from my recommendation to people, I probably wouldn't recommend a mouse of this design, even if you are using claw grip. You want that lateral stability, that's why we rely on the 2:1 ratio. So just over 9cm, this should be no more than about 5cm wide. Weight wise, this is a really light mouse. Even with a bit of cable on, it's only 84 grams. I'd say anyone with a hand under 18cm will be able to palm this, but for claw grip, which is what it's made for, you could probably go up to 19, possibly 20. You could probably do a hybrid claw versus fingertip grip, so it's not quite either. In fact, I think you might need to because of the way this curves. You won't be able to fingertip it properly, these buttons go too far down, but if you just claw your fingers a little bit, you should be able to get away with it. In the line test, there doesn't seem to be any jitter, no angle snapping, no skipping, it seems pretty solid. One thing I've noticed though, at 3250 DPI, it shouldn't feel so much faster than the other mice. It's not that far off, just keep it in mind. In terms of sensor movement, when you lift it off the mousepad, it acts pretty normally, going wherever it's meant to be tracking. No Z-axis bug on this one. Now we're going to do some rocket jumps. This tests lift-off distance and how well it tracks while I'm just flicking the mouse. Now I will say that while it might look good for rocket jumps, and it is pretty good, it does actually spin out if you go too far like just there. So the sensor isn't impervious to spinning out. It takes me a fair bit of speed to do it. Just gonna get into a rhythm here and then I'll try get it faster. So let's do some rocket jumps around here as usual. Missed that one, that's okay. Let's go back up and see the spin out there. So There it goes. It really doesn't like the fast movements. It doesn't happen too often in game. I flick the mouse pretty quickly. But you see, if I try a fast one like that, it just misses completely. So I can get away with it, but I think they need to upgrade that. Apparently the firmware does fix it a little bit, but it still spins out, so not a good sensor for rocket jumping. And if you're flicking the mouse a lot, I would not recommend this one. Now this mouse doesn't actually do 400 DPI, it does 500. So let's test it out at that, same test. Just going to rocket jump around, and then I'm going to flick fast. Isn't that weird? Didn't spin out, let's try again. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, so it has the issue at 500 as well. I would have been amazed if that turned out the other way. While we're here, let's do the precision test. So we're just going to move it slowly. Really jerky at this 500 DPI. But it seems to be tracking all the movements, so that's a plus. Let's get a little faster. Yeah, that is wobbly. I've adjusted the sensitivity, of course. Now we're back on sensitivity 0.5 with 3250 DPI. Just do the slow movements. Already that's a lot smoother. And I think it's the shape of the mouse preventing me from getting that to be stable. But in terms of the sensor, it's not the smoothest I've seen. But that's good enough, I'd be happy with that. In terms of responsiveness and snappiness, the depth out of chroma is number 1. So we'll just go like this a little bit. Let's try with this one. Clearly not as snappy, but you know what, I can't really detect much of a delay on there. It's the same as most of the other mice. To be sure, let's use the EC2A. Okay, you know what, that is a fair bit snappier. Alright, so this sensor is not as snappy as the other two. But I mean, these are much higher priced and better mice. So not really a surprise. But during the game, it's not enough to actually notice it'll cause a problem. The bigger problem is the spinouts. Now I'm just going to do an acceleration test, so moving it slowly. This won't be exact. It's almost impossible to get it exact, but it's a good indication. Okay, so I went up there, but as far as I can tell, no acceleration on this mouse. So talking about lateral stability, I actually found this mouse quite difficult to aim. It's not that I couldn't aim it, I still played fairly well, but someone even commented that I don't look as comfortable as usual. I don't know how often they watch me play to even be able to say that, but I think it's true. Even when I'm using a new mouse, I can sort of get a feel for it pretty quickly. But this one, I really struggled. And that's why I like that 2:1 ratio, it just seems to work best, giving you that lateral stability. If you're not playing first person shooters, as I said, like it's not too bad, but even in Windows it does affect me, so this isn't even a mouse that I'd want to use ever. And perhaps I just don't know how to claw grip, and that's where I'd really see the benefit. Whenever you're watching these videos, try to keep in mind, we can't base it on your experience, we can only base it on our experience. And for me, this mouse just doesn't work. Still, I will say that when you first put your hand on the mouse, even if you're not used to the grip, it does feel quite comfortable. So there are some good points to it, and for the right people, it will probably be a very good mouse, especially because it is so cheap. Quick look at the software, you can rebind the keys to the usual ones. You have some multimedia functions in there too, which will be great for the DPI switches. I haven't tried the rapid fire, but that sounds a bit cheaty. You can even change the liftoff distance apparently. You have 3 DPI stages, and you can actually choose the color of the light with each one. It's an RGB mouse, as you can tell from here, so change it to whatever you like. The sensor, as I was saying, doesn't go to 400 DPI, it goes 250, 500, etc, etc, etc. So I can't even use my standard 3200. For the liftoff distance, I have it on 5 DVDs at the moment, no movement. 4 DVDs, no movement. A little bit of movement at 3, and that's on high. At 2 we get full movement. In the middle we still have movement on 2 DVDs, but not on 3. And at low we lose a little bit of movement on 2 DVDs, but we regain it fully on 1 DVD. So even though they allow you to change the liftoff distance, it doesn't actually change it that much. So we'll just say between 1 and 3 DVDs, that's about it, which is roughly 1.4 to 3.2 millimeters. Just on the buttons again, I couldn't see any macro function. So that's the Xornet 2. My problems with it are obviously the sensor and the shape. But if you think this mouse will suit you, then I'll leave an Amazon link in the description. It is a cheap mouse, so if you're just after an option to keep you going until you get the next mouse, maybe this is worth trying. If you need a recommendation, jump on the website, rocketjumpninja.com, and click the search link, then find your hand size and your grip style, and it'll give you a list of recommendations. So thanks for watching, like the video to help it come up in search results, and I'll catch you in the next one.